sér. Rúndur Þorbjörnsson. Valberg skorar. Valberg Gunnarsson hefur skorað. Ragnar Margeirsson og skoðaðar. Glæsilega.
Óskar Rafn á móti Bjarna. Og Bjarni með góða sendingu fyrir og Haraldur Ingvarsson.
Welcome everybody to a new episode of the Best of Pod Ever. We are going to recap week 18 in the league, and we're also going to talk about some European results, and we're also going to talk about some transfers. There's been some things that have happened since we recorded last. Tryggvi, how are you?
Yeah, pretty good. It's been a nice round in the league, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Yes, you had a very, very nice result. I'm sure you're itching to talk about that one. And whereas on the flip side, we started out okay for the first 15 minutes, but then anyways, we'll talk about FAO too. All right, cool. Yeah, let's hop in then. Let's just go ahead and dive in. So to kick off week 18, we started things out with EBVUF against Stjarnan. So Stjarnan keep their fine form going. They won 2-0. I think it was pretty close through the opening half. Stjarnan's goals actually came pretty late in the game. You know, it was a festival weekend of some kind. I think you know much more information about that than I do, but it was festival weekend for everybody, I guess. And so it's interesting in the first place that they would have games on the weekend. So I've heard, I don't know if you can shed more light on that, but it seemed like there was a great crowd there at the game based on what I saw. Good result for Stjarnan. Again, EBVUF, as we've talked about before, is a tough place to go play.
Yeah, I think they try to keep it like this, have EBVUF play at the start of this weekend, because it's the weekend called Vestlunarmannahelgin. It's a mouthful, where there's things happening all over the country, but especially in Vestmannaeyjar, there's a huge party, outdoor music festival, and so it's a good way to kick off the weekend. It's more unusual to see a game on the Sunday like Breiðablik KR, but apparently that's a date that they save for some European teams to, as like a backup date. But yes, so in theory it's a good way for EBVUF to kick off the festival weekend, but in the end it didn't turn out quite like that for them.
Yeah, they've taken another loss. That's now 3 in a row for them. There was a period of time where they kind of jumped up at the table. Now they've kind of taken a beating a little bit in recent weeks. So yeah, I think it's going to be a real interesting finish to the season. Only 3 match days left until the split. But yeah, they're clearly in that bottom half. EBVUF is. For Stjarnan, there was no Igor Aron. What do you know about that? Anything?
No, I know they talked about that he was injured for the Breiðablik game in the last round, but there hasn't been anything that's come out for this absence. So, I mean, he was on the bench, right? Just didn't come on.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't heard anything. But I know that he's had a great season with Stjarnan and with the U19. So it wouldn't be a surprise if there's teams sniffing around.
Yeah, that would make sense. He's a quality player, so I would not be surprised at all to see him make the jump.
No, definitely not.
Anything else on that game?
No, unfortunately, I missed this game, so it's just what I've read. Stjarnan haven't had the best away record, right? So it's a tough away match. So I think they'll be very happy with this result, and yeah, this, like you said, leaves EBVUF firmly in the bottom half of the season, I think.
Yeah, and for Stjarnan, that puts them up into 4th place on 25 points with a better goal differential than KR, which actually there's a 20-goal swing there, so quite comfortable in terms of goal difference between Stjarnan and KR. But yeah, at the beginning, we had so many conversations about, is Stjarnan in trouble? And they have really turned things around, so it's pretty spectacular, honestly.
For sure.
All right. Let's move to the favorite match of yours this weekend. KR went away to Breiðablik and they got a really nice win, 4-3, beating Breidablik at home, which is something that I don't think many teams have been able to say this season so far. So, yeah, really good win for Kaur.
For sure, especially because not many teams have beaten Breidablik, but it's also Kaur haven't been able to beat the top three, I think, at all this season. This might be the first time they do that. Almost certainly the first time they do that. I don't even think I need to look that up. So, very impressive win. The scoreline, it could have ended worse for Kaur. Obviously, Breidablik were very close to equalizing towards the end there, like they did against Víkingur, a bit more dramatically. But no, it's a great win, and to score 4 goals, like you said, Kaur's goal difference this season isn't great, just because we haven't been able to score any goals. So to score 4 against the reigning champions is nice.
Yeah.
But for Breidablik, it's a bit. Especially what's going on tonight, there really seem to be leaking goals left, right, and center.
Yeah. We're recording actually during the Mostar Breidablik game in Europa League, and it's 6-0 Mostar, and it's only the 60th minute. And Breidablik's down to 10 men, so it's not been pretty. I think we'll maybe talk about that a little bit later, but. Yeah, definitely leaking goals, and Kaur took advantage. Atlee's goal from this game was amazing. I did not catch this game. You did, but I've seen the highlights, and yeah, he dribbles his way through this mosh pit of 3 Breidablik defenders, and he somehow gets the shot off, and it goes right into the net. Really nice goal. So
no, we were very efficient. It's not like we were, pounding or hammering the Breidablik goal all game. We had some chances for sure that we didn't score on, but I think we were just extremely efficient. The Luke Gray goal in the beginning, where I think we were a bit fortunate that Antonade slipped when he went through on goal. And then, a fantastic effort by Atle, and a really nice header by Jakob Frans as well.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on who scored the 4th goal.
Sigurdur Bjartur.
Oh, yeah, exactly. With his first touch of the game. Yeah, he came on when we had a free kick, and then Antonade came, and just I'm not really sure where he thought the ball was going, or if he just didn't see the Kaur players in front of him, and then he just it was an odd decision, and literally seconds after coming on as a sub.
Yeah,
Sigurdur Bjartur scores.
So Kaur actually outshot Breidablik in this game. According to the stats that I'm looking at, it was 21-20 in shots. And you had 12 from outside the box, and 9 of your shots were blocked.
Yeah, maybe that's why I remember it like that, because I feel like in my head, the Kaur goalkeeper made more saves than the Breidablik goalkeeper, maybe that's just in my head. Could
be. Yeah, Breidablik hit the woodwork twice. You hit the woodwork once. 9 shots inside the box. 12 outside the box for Kaur. So yeah, I mean, you were definitely had your sights on the goal. That's for sure. That's positive. That's all positive.
For sure. No, it's a really nice win, and hopefully we have enough powder left to get into the top 6.
Yeah, well, you're sitting in a good spot. You're on 25 points, tied on points with Stjarnan, but again, that goal differential kind of coming back to bite you in the butt a little bit. And you're 1 point ahead of FAO and 2 points ahead of Haukau. So it's tight. It's tight in there, as it has been for a large part of the season. So yeah, it's going to be really, really thrilling. Final three match days before the split. Anything else you want to talk about on this game?
I mean, I think we'll touch on one player in particular later on in the episode. But I think defensively we were quite good. I think it was nice to see. I know we conceded 3 goals, but the last 2 goals, it was sort of an own goal and then a bit of a scramble panic towards the end. I think defensively it was nice to see them bounce back after that shellacking against Valur. It's a young defense, and it's nice to know that they weren't completely broken by that. So that's a very, very big positive for me, I think.
Yeah. Moving on, let's go to Valur. So they hosted Kawa, and Valur put 4 past them, and the final score was 4-2 in favor of Valur. And yeah, they just keep marching on. I mean, the goal scoring machine, it's hard to stop. Tryggvi Tryggvi Rupp had a really great game again. 2 goals, right? He contributed. And I think he also had an assist as well. And so, yeah, definitely he's now the league's top scorer, taking top spot over Stefan Ingi, who obviously is now gone. But yeah, he's got 11 goals on the season. And yeah, he's clearly a key player for Valur.
Yeah, he's had a fantastic season. I think he's trying to catch up to his brothers at Lille. So he's trying to have as good of seasons. Maybe he'll get bought up by Lille at the end of it and join his brothers. Maybe that's his master plan.
That would be something, wouldn't it? Wow.
No, he's been. I mean, along with the entire Valur attack, he's had a really good season, and it's whether he's on the right or the left, it doesn't really seem to matter. He just keeps banging them in.
Yeah, just on this game, I was not able to catch this game either. I'm not sure if you caught any of this, but we do have in our notes here, Hallgrimur Mar became the first Kawa player to reach 150 games in the top division. So that's a stat for you. So Valur now, 3 wins in a row after that loss 4 match days ago to Stjarnan. They just kind of keep cooking. And for a while there, it looked like, with this next game we're going to talk about, it looked like Valur may have closed the gap to 3 points at the top. But despite going down early, Víkingur came back to beat FH 3-1. This game was a home game for FH. And yeah, FH, again, taking another loss. We beat Keflavik the last time out, but this is now 4 losses in the last 5 games. And yeah, our form, we've definitely taken a dip, that's for sure. It hasn't been fantastic recently. So Víkingur did not look very good the first 15 minutes of this game. That's why, FH took an early lead through Kjartan Henry, but then they kind of got it together, and there were really some moments of brilliance, some individual moments of brilliance that delivered Víkingur this win, because honestly, they collectively, this is not the same Víkingur team that we'd seen for most of the season. Like, it really wasn't a great team effort, just really individual moments of brilliance. Yeah, funny enough, the only cards in this game were for the Víkingur. On the Víkingur side, were for the coaching staff. So Arnar got sent off, and we posted a funny little video of him sitting in the stands talking on the phone earlier in the week during this game. It was kind of funny to see that. But yeah, he threatened to throw a chair, and apparently he thought that so Nikolai Hansen was brought down, and he thought it was a penalty because it was in the box. The referee said no, and then Arnar started arguing with the AR, over there by the touch line, and he made some quote unquote funny comments, his words, not mine. and apparently the AR didn't think they were very funny, and he got chucked from the game. So didn't matter. Víkingur would see it out, collect the 3 points, and we still have a 6-point gap at the top. For FH, I guess a few notes. So again, they played really well in the first 15 minutes of this game, and then after that, they didn't. They just kind of, I don't know, they didn't die, but they just really were not. Víkingur really came into the game, I guess is probably the best way to phrase it. There were some individual moments, I think, for FH. They did create some chances. Vidar Ari got his first start for FH. We talked about him in the last episode, new transfer for FH. He looked pretty good. He created the most chances out of any player on either side with 3, and he had the most tackles in the game with 2. But is he going to stay? That's the question.
Yeah, we have it on the authority of Orri, our friend of the pod, that Sandefjord in Norway is very interested. And apparently the contract is sort of a short term, with the understanding that if an offer from abroad arrives, then he can leave. So if the interest is serious, it might be a very short stop for Vidar Ari, which is a big blow for FH, I guess.
That's disappointing to hear. That's really disappointing to hear. I hope that's not necessarily the case, but clearly he's a good player. There's other teams interested, so I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, he did pretty well, and I was impressed watching him. I thought he did a good job. We just lacked control in the midfield, I think. I think Víkingur through a player I think we're going to talk about more later, but through, Binersnair and, some others in that midfield really helped to kind of take over control of the game and put FL on the back foot. And they had a really hard time breaking out of that. It was interesting. The first 15 minutes of that game, FL was really pressing Víkingur, pushing them back and kind of controlling things. And then something happened and it was like a switch. And Víkingur just was like, okay, we're taking control of this game. And so, yeah, they saw it out. So, yeah, that was Víkingur FL. Not much more to say there. Big game for FL coming up in the next round. I believe it's against EBVUF.
Yeah, EBVUF.
And that's gonna be a big game for both teams. EBVUF needs the points, and FL is gonna want to try to keep pace with this little group that's forming in the middle of the table. Yeah, that's gonna be a big one on Sunday.
Yeah, and we can go to have Haukau coming up, but the weekend after that is Valur. That'll be a big test for both teams. See if Valur can pull some points towards Víkingur, or if Víkingur just can finally pull away and essentially end this.
Absolutely. Moving on, let's talk about Fram Fylkir. So it ended in a draw, 1-1. How did you see this game?
Yeah, so I was watching this while you were watching FO, because I was very interested in not just watching our friend Tryggvi, but it was also the first game for Ragnar Sigurðsson as the interim manager of Fram against his boyhood club, because he came up at Fylkir. He even played a little bit with them after returning from Denmark. I think Fram started pretty well. They changed a lot of players. It seemed to work to an extent. They played quite well. They managed to go ahead, and Fylkir didn't really seem to have an answer. They had a few chances, but it was sort of an even game, and Fram seemed to have the upper hand. But then I think someone else said it as well. It was a bit of a game of two halves. Fylkir started to get a bit of control in the second half, and thanks to a player that we're going to talk about again a bit later, Pétur Bjarnason, they managed to come back and draw the game. And I think either team might have been able to steal it towards the end. Maybe Fylkir looked a little bit more likely. There was a few tackles and potential penalties, I think, on either side. But yeah, it was a 1-1 draw. I think is pretty fair. It's not a result either team wanted. I think if Fram would have won, they would have overtaken Fylkir, I think even. But as it stands, Fram remain second to bottom, while Fylkir overtake EBVUF just barely. Both teams wanted a win here, but it just didn't quite work out.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Fram need to figure something out. I mean, do you feel like they looked better under their new manager in this game, or was it kind of the same old story, or too early to tell?
Yeah, I think they looked okay. There were some, promising developments. So they had two new players, or one and a half. They had Jon Perejo, who they signed from Thor, but then they also had Aron Snær Ingason, who they got back on loan from Þróttur, I think. He's had a pretty good, not half, I guess a bit more than half of the season in the Lengjudildin, where he scored a number of goals, and he assisted for the goal as well. So I think he looked quite promising. And then Jon, I think, added a bit of something to the midfield. But it's always a pleasure to watch Tryggvi and Thiago in Fram, just pinging passes between themselves. And there was a few opportunities where it could have ended in a goal, but unfortunately for them, it didn't. So there were some positive signs, but it was a little bit same old. They couldn't quite take advantage.
Yeah.
And I know that they had said before the game that anyone wearing blue would get in for free, and they were really trying to pump up the fans and pump up the team a little bit for this game, knowing that let's start again, let's start afresh with a new manager and get a win, and we'll see how much of a blow that is that it didn't quite work out. I think a 1-1 draw is still reasonable, but it's not what they wanted.
Yeah, for sure. It does look like Tryggvi got the player of the match in FOTMob in the app. He got 7.9 rating. That's the best out of either side. So going off of that, I guess, looks like he had a decent game. So that's kind of exciting. Yay, Tryggvi.
No, he was quite good. He had it was Aron Snær who assisted, but it was the cross from Tryggvi that really set up the goal. And then he had at least one shot that was, I think it was slightly deflected, and it just barely went past the goal. So there were some chances, and he definitely could have won it for Fram, but maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe next time. All right, the final game of Week 18 was Haukau at home to Keflavik. Haukau, they left it late. Keflavik actually went up in this game to start off. But Haukau came back with 2 really late goals to take a 3-1 win here, which is A, big 3 points for Haukau, and B, there's now a 5-point gap between Keflavik and Fram, and for all intents and purposes, as we've mentioned before, it does not look good for Keflavik.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, just on the pitch and now off the pitch, because it was announced this week that Sigurður Ragnar Egilsson, the manager, would step down at the end of the season. I don't think that comes as a huge surprise. He's been there for a few years. He talked about that he thought about stepping down after last season when they had a really good end of the season and then lost, as we've talked about, 60-70% of their team. And he said that both parties realized that this is a good time to move on. And yeah, I think that's sort of indicative of where Keflavik are. I don't very much doubt that there's a light at the end of the tunnel for them this season, unfortunately.
Yeah. Let's talk about Haukau a little bit. So I think there were 2 players for Haukau that maybe achieved or broke a record and then tied a record this weekend.
Yeah, it's not quite the numbers that we talked about sometimes when we're talking about Nikolai Hensen or something, So this is the top scorers for Haukau in the top division in Iceland, and it's 13 goals. So it's Atli Arnason was the first one to get to 13, and then Artur Ari Atlason tied him later in the game. So now they're both on 13 goals, so the highest goal scorers for Haukau in the top division. But they still have time to add on to that tally.
That's fun. That's real fun. I love it. We did. So you and I were kind of talking during this game. We both had it on, and yeah, it was a pretty ugly game for large stretches. In fact, it didn't really get that exciting until maybe the last 15 minutes, I'd say. And so, yeah, we were talking, and then I guess the Haukau coach after the game was making some sort of comments on TV about how, his team has really scored a lot of their goals in like the last 15 minutes of games this season. And so you and I got curious and we were wondering what those numbers were. So we did a little bit of research earlier today. And so it turns out that Haukau has scored 10 goals after the 75th minute this season. How that compares to other teams in the league, I don't know. Maybe we'll have that on the next episode, but they've only conceded 5 in the last 15 minutes of the game. So scoring 10 when they've scored 34 in total, that's about a third of their goal tally. That's pretty impressive. I think that's impressive. To me, that shows that they have a lot of heart and a lot of gumption and they don't stop, right? Like they keep working, even if the result may not be going the right way for them when they hit the 75th minute mark, they don't give up, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why they're sitting in 7th place in the league right now.
For sure. I think it was quite interesting to hear him say that. It's not something you maybe hear from a manager saying like, oh, we know we're just gonna win in the end of the game. But Omar Ingi was very adamant that, like he said that Dornberg's exact words, but something to the tune of, the statistics show that it's basically assured that we're gonna win. If anyone's gonna win it in the last 15 minutes, it's gonna be us. So it was cool to see the numbers bear that out as well. No, I mean, they also have these sort of players, right? We both throw it at the same time about Hassan Yalo.
Yep.
How much we like to watch him play.
Yep.
He's the sort of player that, especially if you bring him on in the last 20, 30 minutes of the game, he's the sort of player that just creates a ton of trouble for the opposing defense. And then, you have so many others like Örvar Ekkertsson, Eyþór Aron Völler, like these sort of players that just, if they have a bit of legs left in them, they're gonna make it really annoying for the opposing defenders, and especially if they have this belief, almost this like Real Madrid belief of no matter what's happening, we're just gonna win it in the end. Then it definitely doesn't hurt.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think we even saw that, of the 5 goals that they conceded in the last 15 minutes, 2 of them were in that first crazy Breiðablik game. So, if you take that insanity out of the equation, that's 3 goals out of just over, 31 goals.
Yeah, very impressive. We also got a chance to see the new signing for Haukau, Anton Sjöberg. I don't know if I said that right. But yeah, he came on and he was actually a lot smaller than I thought he would be. But he was like a little wasp in there, just, kind of here, there, and everywhere. And so yeah, I'll be really curious to see what he can do in the league. It wasn't, he played the last 20 minutes, and yeah, he was decent. So, hopefully he's got a good future here in the league, and that's kind of exciting. But you're right. I mean, we both love watching Yalo. I also like watching Aziz for Haukau as well. Yeah, I was a little concerned when they took off Yalo and Aziz at the same time in that game, and it worked out for them. So kudos to, I guess, the manager and to the team for putting that together, because I was not convinced that Haukau was going to get anything out of this game, except for maybe a point. So
no, it was a pretty turgid game. I think they got quite lucky with the penalty. I still haven't seen an angle where it looks like a penalty, to be very honest. And then there was at least one incident where I think Keplevi could be very annoyed at not getting a penalty. There was a tackle.
Yes.
It looked like a tackle
from behind in the box. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe the ref saw something we didn't, but from the angles we got, I would be kind of annoyed as a Keplevi fan.
Totally. I completely agree. I distinctly remember that because I was sitting there like, what? But cool. Well, that wraps up week 18 in the league. When we come back, we are going to talk briefly about the European results, including maybe a little bit of a mini comeback from Breidablik in this game that's going on right now. So stay tuned. Welcome back. In this section, we're going to talk about some of the European results that Icelandic teams have had. So at this point in time, you're probably aware that Breidablik is now out of Champions League qualification. They ended up losing the second leg to FC Copenhagen. Tryggvi was there. We have a bonus episode where Tryggvi interviewed a few of the Breidablik players after the game. If you want our take on it, go check that out. It's a really great episode. Tryggvi did a great job putting that together, and I'm sure he had fun at the game with Ori and his brother. So yeah, definitely go check that out. But so that means that Breidablik is now in Europa League qualification. They're actually playing right now. It's 89th minute, just turned. And they're down to 10 men, as we mentioned earlier in the show, against Zrinjski Mostar from Bosnia. And it's score 6-2 at the moment. So Breidablik has scored 2 goals since we last updated you, which is impressive. Ooh, and it was almost just 7-2. But yeah, so they've pulled 2 goals back. They're still a 4-goal deficit. They'll play at home next. They'll play in Reykjavik next. But I'm not sure if they can come back from a 4-goal deficit.
No, I think we saw that in the Coward game as well. They have a domestic team and a European team, and they try to bring on some of the European players when Coward stormed ahead, but it just wasn't quite enough. I think they're also just getting a bit tired. They play a very intensive game. They still want to do well in the league. They don't want to drop too far behind. They don't want to lose the European spot either. So to keep this up in the league and in Europe, I think to win 4-0, 5-0 at home, it's going to be a tough ask.
Yeah.
Because, Zrinjski Mostar seem to be a fairly good team.
Yeah. So if Breidablik can't get past this, the Zrinjski side, they will actually now fall down into Europa Conference League qualification in the final round, where they'll probably be pitted against Struga from Macedonia, who earlier today took a 3-1 win against a side from Luxembourg. So they might have that tie wrapped up. It seems possible. I believe they were at home this first leg. So yeah, we'll have to see what ends up happening. But that Struga team was also in Champions League qualification as a representative for Macedonia, and they're a tricky little team. I don't think we should underestimate them at all, based on kind of what I was seeing and some chatter from some people on Twitter, which obviously sometimes you have to take with a grain of salt. But It was a guy that knows Macedonian football pretty well. So, yeah, that's going to be really, really interesting. And I still have hope. Maybe Breidablik can pull this back. And hopefully there's a good crowd there as well. And people haven't given up on their chances just yet. It's not over till it's over, right? So.
No, that's true. I got a bit curious about Svenski Mostar since we fully admitted in the last pod that we didn't really know much about them. I could see they really wrapped up the Bosnian League last season, and I can see Struga did very much the same thing. They won with 10 points over the second team, Skrupi. So they're lost only 2 matches the entire season. So this is not a team to be taken lightly.
Definitely not. The other team that we have in Europe is Kawa, and they've put together a really solid run so far in their qualification efforts, which is really exciting. It's been fantastic to see that. So they did end up getting past the last round. They got past Dundalk, and that put them up against Club Brugge, which that I think might be a little too much to ask. And I feel bad saying that, but the first leg has already wrapped up today, and they ended up losing 5-1. It was not pretty. That one, to me, also seems like it might be over.
I think, unfortunately, that seems to be the case. It was always going to be a huge, bite to swallow for them. I think it would have been maybe better if maybe they could have started at home, teased them up a little bit. But yeah, starting in Brugge, the players even said it before the game that they were really excited to play in such a huge stadium, and it is a bit different from Dundalk, where the players were, talking about how poor the facilities were and everything in Ireland, and then going to Brugge, where it's a different level from Dundalk and Kawa for sure. Because I'm pretty sure they're playing at Laugardalsvöllur, the national team stadium.
Oh.
The return, I might be wrong about it. I'm fairly certain about that. So that it's going to be a fun event for Kawa, not to belittle them. It's not going to just be a fun day out, but it's a nice thing to experience. So hopefully they get some fans down from Akureyri.
Just going back to the Breidablik game, I've got the stats flashed up on the screen. So Breidablik had 4 shots. 3 of those were on goal. In total in this game, they've scored 2 off of those 4 shots. Whereas Sunski had 26 with 11 of those on goal. So, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, that kind of wraps up Europe. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the players of the round, our 3 stars. We'll be back in a second.
I just saw that Keflavik just sacked, or I don't know if they sacked him, but he's gone. Sigurður Ragnar is gone from Keflavik.
Official?
So, yeah. So
wow.
His
I thought he was leaving at the end of the season. Didn't they just say that he was going at the end of the season, and now they've just decided to? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. If he just sounded a bit too depressed
crazy.
after that last game or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
There was a weird comment from one of the players that they asked him, like, what do you think about Sigurður Ragnar leaving at the end of the season? And he said no comment. So I don't know what that means. Huh. And then they sack him the next day. So I don't know. But they've hired his assistant until the end of the season.
Well, there you go. Breaking news on the show. Very good. Yeah, well, let's go ahead and get into it then. Our 3 players of the round, our 3 stars. Do you want to introduce the first one?
Yeah, so I'm like I said earlier, I was really happy with the Coward defense this weekend, and especially Jakob Frans Paulsson, who scored a great header. I know some people were criticizing the Breiðablik goalkeeper for his positioning and things for that goal, but it was a really good header, sort of across the goal, and for I think he's 20 years old.
Yep.
It's his first top division goal.
Yep.
But it wasn't just that. To be honest, all season I've been quite impressed with him. But in this game, I think he was really good, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they conceded the last 2 goals after he'd gone off injured. So yeah, I definitely think he deserves a shout out. Hopefully, the injury's not too bad.
Yeah, I think that's a really good shout. He's played in 17 games this season. Most of them have been starts for Kaur. So yeah, he's getting significant minutes, and I think he's proving that, he's got what it takes. And I think that's a really good shout. Love it. For the second one, we nominated Bernard Sneer from Víkingur, who scored 2 goals for Víkingur in their comeback win against FH. Real key player for them. He's been really steady pretty much all season long. He is also, coincidentally, the third top scorer in the league. I think he had a really good game and was key for them. One of those players for Víkingur that had their moments of brilliance, because as we mentioned earlier, it wasn't a great team effort from Víkingur in that game, but some real key individual performances, and Björnar was one of them for sure. So that's why we nominated him. And then for the third one, we also mentioned him earlier for Fylkir, Peter Bjarnason. We went with him because, well, first of all, with this, what we're trying to do is not necessarily focus on the same teams all the time. We're trying to kind of spread the love a little bit. So we've been kind of tough on Fylkir this season. and so, we felt like it was important to try to make sure that we recognize players who are excelling in the league, no matter what team they're playing for. We could have easily gone with, Tryggvi from Valur, but we're going to go with Peter because he seemed to really change the game when he came in the second half. He scored the equalizer for Fylkir, and I think he was instrumental in what you mentioned earlier with Fylkir really coming out in the second half and just, it really being that tale of two halves in that game. So yeah, I went with Peter. Anything you want to add to that?
I've just been really impressed with him this season. I think he also has a few assists, which, if you look at him, he's a big, tall striker playing for a relegation threat inside.
Yeah.
You might assume he's just, a big lump up front. But I think he's been really impressive. He only has 3 goals this season, but I think he's been a really good presence up front. And when he comes on, he can really change the game for Fylkir. And yeah, 5 assists this season according to Transfermarkt.
That's pretty good.
So no, I've been really impressed with him, and hopefully he can keep it up. Hopefully for Fylkir as well. They're going to need it now.
Yeah. All right. So congrats to those 3 for making our 3 stars of the week. When we come back in the next section, we are going to talk about transfers. All right, in our last section, we are going to talk about just a few transfers that are going on, as well as maybe some rumors in there. I think, though, before we get to that, I just did want to say, so Tryggvi, you put out a poll on our Twitter account about Breiðablik's title chances and if they're over or not. What did you get?
Yeah, I think any Breiðablik fan should just skip for the next 10, 20 seconds. I think the Breiðablik fans voted no, but 85% of the respondents voted yeah. It's the title chances are over. I think, like we said, I think it unfortunately for them, I think this might just be a bit too much, especially with Víkingur not really missing a step, and then Valur right behind them.
Yeah, I
think they might be right.
Agreed. We should also note another quick note is looks like Tryggvi got a contract extension as well, which was announced yesterday, I believe, or maybe it was earlier today. But yeah, he's extended with Valur until 2026.
Yeah, just so it push up the price for when he goes to Lidl.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So speaking of transfers, all right, so one of the hot topics that we've discussed is the FH transfer ban, which has been lifted, but there's still drama going on there. So it looks like Morten Beck's lawyer has come out and just strongly criticized how the whole situation has been handled and just does not agree at all that they should have had the ban overturned.
I still don't fully understand this. we speak to some people and they say like, oh yeah, no, they didn't do anything wrong. It's all fine. They paid. Then we speak to other people and they say the exact opposite. And that's nobody seems to have I think everyone would appreciate, the FA to come out and explain this a little bit better, exactly what happened and how it's been resolved, because it's just like we said, we're not accusing anyone of anything dirty or anything like that, but it just is very confusing, and nobody really seems to know what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. It's a bit wild, and hopefully there is clarity for everybody's sake, I guess. Another key player has left the league, this time from FAO. We knew he was going to leave. Ulfur August, the striker, he is now left for the States. He's coming over here. He's going to Duke for college. He's going to play on their men's soccer team, one of the better college soccer teams in the nation. So he should excel really well there. Duke regularly challenges for the College Cup title. So I'm sure he'll play a key role in that. And if they ever make their way to Ohio, hopefully I can get a chance to go see him play. That'd be cool.
For sure.
But he's gone now. He's played his last game for FAO. Although I did see that the FAO said something about see you next summer. So maybe he's going to come back and play in a year. I don't know. I don't know. It was something weird like that. I didn't really understand it. There's like college rules, so he can't, I don't think he can be paid, or I don't know. I don't fully know the details of that, but.
No, I think it's just wishful thinking, or I don't know. Maybe they have some sort of a verbal agreement with him. I don't know, but yeah, I think FO fans would welcome him back for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I was really sad he was leaving in the first place. So yeah, I'd take him back in a heartbeat. He was a great player for us and scored some real key goals, and we're definitely going to miss him. So there's a new boy in town for Breidablik. So Breidablik fans, you can take your fingers out of your ears now and tune in, because you actually got a pretty big signing has joined your side.
Yeah, Kristoffer Ingi Kristinsson, I think is his last name. This is the problem with last names in Icelandic, and don't always remember them because we don't talk about them with last names. But yeah, Kristoffer Ingi Kristinsson. So it's a free transfer from. He was last in the Netherlands. He's been on loan. He's been in Denmark as well, playing in the second divisions for both in both countries. And he was on the bench. I don't think he came on right for Breidablik tonight. It doesn't seem like it, but he was on the bench tonight. I'm sure they'll be excited to get him in the first team as soon as possible. They've been talking about getting a striker to fill the holes that Stefan Inge has left, and so he's. I wouldn't, from what I remember seeing from him and hearing about him, he's not quite an out and out striker like that. But to be honest, with a team like Breidablik, where it's all a little bit fluid and they're all attack as a unit, it's maybe not necessary to always have a classical number 9.
Yeah.
So he'll be for sure a huge signing for them.
Awesome. I'm excited to see how he goes. You are correct. I can confirm he was on the bench for Breidablik tonight. He did not come in to the game. So
they wanted to spare him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or we'll probably see him this weekend, I would imagine. Another player that we've talked about several times on our show, from Fylkir, has left. A big blow for Fylkir. Unfortunately, we have to say farewell and good luck to our buddy Oscar, who is a huge fan favorite by everybody at the club and us as well. And so yeah, he's off to Norway. He's going to Sogndal.
Are you that sad to see him go after the last time FO played Fylkir?
I am not counting that in this opinion.
No, yeah, for Fylkir, it's a huge blow. He's been, if not the best, one of the best players at the club this season, and still in 19, right? Or has he turned 20 now? But he's just he's very young still, and he's been fantastic. And Ture Ander Flo, the manager of Sogndal, who you might remember from his Chelsea days,
yes, described
Oscar as a big talent, one of the biggest talents in Iceland. So I think we can agree to that. I'm really excited to see him join Sogndal, where he'll join some FO alumni, and hoping to get them back in the top division in Norway.
Yes, hopefully. I haven't checked in on Sogndal of late, so I don't know how their season is going at this point in time, but they are typically one of the sides that comes and goes in the Eliteserien and on a regular basis, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them get back up there at all.
Yeah, I think they were third or something like that, and I think Jonathan Ingi has had a pretty good season. He was being linked to some of the top division sides in Norway as well. So, they're fourth now, okay, but a game in hand. So they're 5 points off the top in the Obos Liga.
Awesome.
So.
Well, we wish Oscar the best, and much success. We mentioned another one already as well in the show earlier for Haukau. Anton Sobjerg, Danish striker. He's coming from Vendsyssel. At least that's how I say it. I'm just hoping that he, can keep their really good season going. We've kind of already touched on him, so I don't have too much more to say. But if you have anything,
no, it's I don't really know him, even though he's from here, where I live in Denmark. But it's interesting that the signing on not loan, like it happens in so many times in Danish players coming to Iceland. So hopefully he can get some stability and have a good rest of the season, and then we'll see him up and running next season.
In terms of rumors, just to kind of wrap this episode up, so it looks like Thorimar Thorsen from Kawa has been linked with a move to Sweden.
Yeah, there was some talk that Valur or Kauer were chasing him as well, but the latest news is that he's been linked to Östers in Sweden. No official news on that. And then the other player being linked away is Kristoffer Jonsson from Valur, who just returned from loan in Italy and now is being linked back to Italy in Serie C in Triestina Calcio. So a short stop for him. I think he only came on once for Valur after he returned from loan. So, but talented youth international. So hopefully he can get some game time in Italy.
That's a real short stay.
Yeah. But
maybe he has the same release clause in his contract as Vidar.
Yeah, it could be. But I also don't blame him. I think coming from Italy and going to Iceland is a great country, but moving from Italy to Iceland, I can imagine, is a bit of a...
Yeah, maybe a little.
especially in the summer, where it's. I know the weather has turned a little bit now, so it's gotten a bit better in the last few weeks. But talking to my family, they haven't been the most. June and May were not the greatest months.
Yeah,
in Iceland, like we saw on the pictures on some of the games early on in the season.
Yep, and we already talked about Aaron Snaer, right? With Fram.
Yeah, he came back and looking exciting. So hopefully, even though I saw he got a pretty bad review on the FODMOB app, I'm not sure I agree with that, but I think he looked exciting. So
perfect.
A welcome boost to the Fram forward line.
All right, well, that will wrap it up for this episode. Thanks, everybody, for listening. As always, if you're interested in following what we do, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Besta English. Actually, just put up a really neat little graphic for our 3 stars of the week. So that was fun to put together. We're going to do that on a weekly basis from here on out now. So yeah, our 3 stjornar of the week. Which is going to be really fun. So yeah, there's some cool content on there. Definitely give us a follow if you like what we do. We appreciate you sharing our stuff, our episode, getting the word out to all Icelandic fans around the world. And feel free to give us a rating and a review. And if you have feedback for us, you're always welcome to get in touch. And with that, Tryggvi, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And we will see you all next time.